Martin?
Yes, in two respects. Firstly, each year we conduct a survey of every waiver program, every personal care optional state plan benefit program, and every home health care program. And within that survey, we ask them questions about the functional and the financial eligibility criteria used on those programs. The results of that survey have been published recently in Home Healthcare Quarterly, which provides a nice overview of the findings of that study. So that addresses one of your points. Secondly, and more specifically about the provision of personal care services, we conducted a series of six state case studies which looked more narrowly, not just at the provision of home and community-based services, but specifically about the provision of personal care within Medicaid programs and through the Older Americans Act. And one of the issues that we examined there was the use of screening and assessment tools. And each one of those case studies is written up and it's on the website. So there's information there about different state approaches to screening and eligibility for personal care programs more specifically. But that's really the extent of the research we've conducted on this. Prior to the PAS Centre, Charlene conducted a study, I think, of screening and assessment tools used on waiver programs. And that was published in about, what was it, like 99 maybe? 99. But we could send you a copy of that, no problem.
Well,
it's kind of out of date
just
now,
to say, well, actually we have a couple more recent ones looking at screening, the pre-admission screening for nursing homes. But as you know, every state has their own criteria, so they vary widely across states, and some states are very lenient. It's really only a doctor's signature to get into a nursing home. And so many advocates have felt that the criteria for nursing homes needs to be made much more stringent. But the catch-22 is that the waiver is tied to that criteria. So if you leave the nursing home criteria loose, then that means you can also have loose criteria for the waiver. So that's what makes it difficult. I don't know if anybody else in the audience wants to comment on these issues. Or
Donna has a microphone. I don't know if she wants to talk.
Okay, Donna Kalane.
Is it coming across there? My name's Donna Kalame, and like Mike Humphrey, I'm director of the In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority in San Francisco. Questions that went through my mind with the data were you really only referring to 18 and above in all the data, both participants and expenditures? Because if you were including the In-Home Supportive Services program, which is a personal care program, it does cover children. And in that regard, I guess although I could understand for advocates pushing for the Community Choices Act that a lower estimate than previously made could be exciting for trying to push it through Congress, I would argue that, and I'm wondering if there's any data that would cover the expansion to for sure include children in these services, and as Mike Oxford referred to, certainly young adults as they're, or young teenagers as they're growing, learning how to use consumer-directed care, I would hope could be covered by that. In addition, we all know that the assets limit in particular for SSI eligibility is so low. And so I would argue for a change in those levels so that more people can be covered. And in that regard, I would be very happy to ask Congress for 8 or 10 billion for this in order to expand and cover really the population that needs it. So I guess my questions are in those areas, and whether there are estimates that if we expanded eligibility for SSI, how much more expensive would the Community Choices Act be?
Martin?
I think it's really addressed to Mitch, and it's about Mitch's analysis.
But the first part was about I thought it was about the waiver date.
Waiver coverage, yeah. Oh. We include the children's waivers in our analysis.
That includes children.
Yeah, if children are served on it, those data are included in our data,
Yeah. And there are 22 children's waivers, which, and of course, children can also be included like in the DD waivers. So it just varies by the state.
Yeah. That's 22 waivers that only deal with children, but that's
Yeah.
not to say that children aren't served on other waivers.
Right.
Yeah, the one thing about the Community Choice Act is it's not really clear whether it covers people up to 300% of SSI, as some of the waivers do. So we also made an estimate of what it would cost to extend it up to 300%, and I didn't cover that, but it's substantially higher. It's like 7 billion, I'm thinking. I have the exact estimate in the paper. And we took into account assets, but we didn't do a separate estimate for if we allowed twice as many assets as is allowable. But that's possible to, back out of the data that we have. So we have given this to the staffers at the Hill, and I understand they've given a copy of the paper to CBO. So hopefully somebody's going to call a hearing on this bill at some point and actually talk about how much it costs. And then, all the sponsors of the bill, which are numerous, can come forward and, call for a vote on it and, hopefully vote yay for it. So, but because of the cost, it's never gone anywhere. There's never been a hearing on Mikasa that I know of.
And, the point about the assets is a point overall about Medicaid assets requirements being so low. And I think Congress would have to take that on in legislation. And because of the potential cost of that, it hasn't really been addressed, which is kind of a separate issue. Okay, I think we're running out of time. There's a webcast question, but okay. We'll be very quick.
This is a question from Ralph via the webcast. He states that there has been a rumor going around, and he has obviously heard about it, that CMS has resisted the expansion of HCBS programs in a couple of states due to concerns about how states deal with the question of spousal refusal in relation to Medicaid eligibility. The question is, how large a factor does anyone think this should be, and what advice might anyone be able to give? I think this is open to not only the presenters, but also anyone on the floor who might be able to give any comments about it.
Anybody want to take that on? I don't know if we know the answer to that.
Do we have anybody from CMS presenting later, or
No, we don't have anybody from CMS presenting. I don't know if, Peter, do you know the answer to that question, or Nancy?
Why don't we research it?
Here's someone over here who might know.
Hi, I'm Aileen Hockenstead from the United Hospital Fund in New York City. And the issue of spousal impoverishment protections has been an issue in the state of New York's negotiation on a nursing home diversion and transition waiver. And the issue is that in some states, the provisions that protect assets and income of spouses for institutional residents have been applied to home and community-based waiver recipients. And CMS's position is that that's not appropriate. And so there's been a big negotiation back and forth about whether or not spouses in the community should have the same rights to income and asset protections as those whose spouses are receiving nursing home care.
And is CMS saying that you need legislation to change that?
I believe their position is that it's not correct for that states do not have the authority to do that.
Yeah.
However, that is very questionable.
Yeah.
It's a matter of interpretation.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Okay, Mike Collins wants to make another comment.
10 seconds here as you head into this break, which I'm sure is overdue. Thank you for listening, but I also want you to take advantage of having a lot of the national leadership here. I see Steve Tingus is here from NIDER, Michael Winter from FTA and DOT. So corner them during the breaks. Don't ask for any money, but be sure you say hello while we've got them out and about. So
No,
thanks.
ask for money too.
No, no.
Okay, I want to thank our panelists, and we'll take a 15-minute break.